Welcome to the Feminine Mistake Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Nicole, and today I'm joined by
Hillary,
Sarah,
and actor-writer Jasmine Waters. Welcome, Jasmine.
Hi, girl. Hey.
hi, thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
We
excited to have
are
you.
so excited to have you. All right. Today's movie, well, this month we'll be talking about 9 to 5, 1980. Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda.
Lily Tomlin.
Before we get started talking about the movie itself, let's all go around and talk about what our experiences were with film 9 to 5 before watching the film for the podcast. So, Hillary, why don't you start us off?
I knew nothing about this movie. Nicole texted me the other day and was like, hey, what do you think about doing 9 to 5 for the podcast? And I was like, I've never seen that. Cool. And that's what I knew about it. And
All right. So just like diving in.
Yeah.
No
I just
preconceived
went for it.
notions.
And I thought that Bette Midler was in it. And I had been telling a lot of people that, but it's not
She
Bette
should have
Midler.
been.
It's a different buxom blonde. It is Dolly Parton. So
I think in this time period, Bette was a redhead.
Right,
However,
right.
I think
will
the one
always think of
thing
her as a blonde.
that could have made this movie more awesome would have been to have Bette Midler in it.
Yeah,
I think
just
that's the
added
only
a
thing that was
fourth
missing.
character for Bette Midler,
Yeah.
and then it would have just it would have been a magical piece of cinema. Just every Oscar.
Once again, another 80s movie that I had never even heard of before.
Really?
Nope, never heard of this movie before, and so that's all I knew about
Nothing.
it.
Not
Absolutely
until
nothing.
I sent a link to the trailer.
Look it
to you
up
guys.
online.
I as well had no experience with it. I got the DVD from Nicole and I was like, okay, cool, we're going to watch this. And today Devin's best friend asked me if that was the musical. And I said, oh, there's a musical.
There
And
is.
they were like, yeah. And I was like, well, I don't think it's the musical. Dolly Parton's in it. And then I stopped myself and remembered that she's a singer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it could have been a musical.
It could have been.
But yeah, so I knew nothing other than the cover of the DVD case. And I went into it like that.
All right. So this is like, I think this is the first time that we're going in with like really no preconceived notions
None
or
of
feelings.
us saw it.
So I have, of course, have been aware of this film for some time, but I've never actually seen it. This is one of the few films that we've watched for the podcast that I have not seen before. So let's get into talking about the film 9 to 5.
You seem sort of distant.
Let's just do it, Ed. You look stupid and rich.
The house is a mess, Jack. The kids are a mess, Jack. You're a mess, Jack.
You have been a total bitch ever since you came to New York. Fascist.
All right, let's get into it.
So let's get started right at the top. We've got the title sequence with Dolly Parton's 9 to 5.
Montage.
Christos sang along to this whole intro.
Of course he did.
I didn't know it,
I'd
but I
never heard
liked
of
it.
this song before.
Neither had I.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Oh my
no,
God.
yeah,
I was
not a
singing
big
it in my
Dolly
head all
Parton
day.
fan.
Yeah.
Not a big Dolly, no.
No.
Me neither.
But this one is like a classic Dolly Parton song.
It sounded like it was classic, or that it came from the musical. So I was confused when the
No,
title sequence
just-
happened. I was like,
you
oh
know,
God.
We haven't
God,
really
it
talked
is a
about this,
musical.
but the musical came out in 2009. So that was very much after the film. So title sequence, we actually very reminiscent, I thought, of Baby Boom.
Super
Yes.
reminiscent. And there were other references too that I got to Baby Boom that will
Montage
get
of
to.
working women, and not prostitutes, but women who
Not
work.
Women of the Night.
Yeah. And they were all wearing such boring shoes. Just so boring.
Well, one of them
And
was
really bad
cycling.
stockings.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, the stockings.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed right off the bat, and I feel like this was a part of the casting of the workplace as well, was that there seemed to be a lot of different types of women, different ages. There were, Sarah's looking at me like I'm crazy.
I feel like
women
everyone
of
was white. I feel like
There was one Hispanic woman and one black woman.
yeah, there
Which-
was like,
That's
yeah.
a big deal.
like, am I right? For the
It's a
1980s,
big deal.
that is considered diversity.
I was expecting none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like,
And
okay,
they
here
had
we go.
lines.
Yeah. Well, the black woman's was kind of masked within like the lunchroom chatter
Yeah.
that they had.
Well, they had
And
a
then
conversation
the
at
Hispanic
the
woman was really into it.
and I don't know that those. I think the Hispanic woman may have had a name. I'm not sure about the
I
black
thought it was
woman.
like
but
Sophia.
yeah, something like that.
Felt right.
yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I did not write down any character names. I just kept writing Lily Tomlin or Jane
Yeah,
Fonda
me
the whole
too.
time. But
Except for
the
Dora Lee, which was easy to remember.
the black woman did have a conversation with Lily Tomlin in the coffee room. when she was. We'll get to that.
Yes, I know.
Oh,
Shop.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, there were like older women and younger women and women with kids. I guess
And
that's what I'm
drunk
trying to say.
women.
And drunk women. But even in the beginning, there were black women and there were different types of women even in the montage. So like,
But
I
they
think
were
they're
all wearing boring shoes.
Hillary is very good.
They
It was
were
not
all
Sex in the City,
beige.
guys.
They were all beige.
They were all
With a
wearing character
chunky
shoes.
heel. It was horrible.
It's like precursor to Sex in the City. It's like sexless in the city.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of shoes, bad shoes racing to work.
Yes.
So the first character we get introduced to is Jane Fonda, who is dressed
Judy,
who is dressed like a character from a Carol Burnett sketch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know how to describe. Like I tried to just write it down and describe it. I was like, prissy outfit. Like I don't know.
She
I wrote
looks
down
like-
school marm.
Oh, she looked like country girl in the city for the first time.
Yeah,
But
like,
she
she looked
wasn't,
lost.
which was weird.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's what it was. It was like she was like lost looking. Like she didn't fit there.
She
at
definitely
all.
was meant to look like a fish out of water for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say
Giant
like
glasses.
to me it seemed like they were casting her and Lily Tomlin against type.
Yeah.
Where you would see, Jane Fonda probably more likely in the Lily Tomlin role, which we'll get to her in a minute. But you would think Lily Tomlin would be in the awkward, nerdy,
I
prissy.
disagree.
You think?
I've always seen Lily Tomlin as being the put together, like confident, strong, sophisticated.
She had this like sophistication
Yeah.
and like style and glamour, which I feel like if you were a typical Hollywood exec casting this movie, you would have put Jane Fonda in that role, I think.
That's true.
I think she was meant to look out of place. And that's why they had her dressed in that way. Because they're like, this is gorgeous Jane Fonda. We got to make her look weird by putting this hat on her. Like she did kind of
She
had this
did.
country
She
bumpkin
did
in the
not
city
come
look.
across as being gorgeous in this film. Like
I don't think that was, that
Yeah.
was not the point of her character. I
That
don't
blue
think.
mint dress was not wearing her.
No.
Right? No.
The dress was wearing her. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
it was
Fish
just-
out of
and the
water.
weird hat and the giant glasses.
Well, she can't even get on an elevator
I know.
properly. She gets
stuck in the
crushed by an
which was
elevator.
the funniest thing I've ever seen. I was like, ha.
She has a lot of trouble with machinery in this first
I
couple
know.
scenes.
What?
So we immediately then go to Lily Tomlin, who we hear
Violet.
saying Violet, right? Who's saying that she doesn't want to train Jane Fonda's character Judy,
Judy.
because Judy has never worked a day in her life. So Lily Tomlin's kind of looking down on her as having been a housewife, and now she's like entering the workforce.
And she's divorced.
Yeah, they made a very
They
clear
did-
point
yeah.
of that.
They did make a
Like-
big
Like
point that
an
she's
info dump.
divorced.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah. And and Lily Tomlin was like, well, I'm a widow.
I know. It was,
Like,
a
I was like,
it was
we had to
very clunky
Yeah.
writing there.
I felt like it was having to explain why women would be in the workforce.
That's
It's
exactly
like,
how I
oh,
felt.
Well, they're only here because they don't have men to take care of them.
Yeah.
I know.
It was like, well, Dolly's husband is a musician, so that's why she's got to have a job. And then,
Yeah.
it's like, don't worry, guys. Jane Fonda's husband divorced her, and Lily Tomlin's widowed, so that's why they're working. Okay, guys, that's
Yeah.
just so you can
Ugh, don't
accept
worry,
this.
They don't really have independence. They just are forced to.
Yeah. So I definitely felt like that was the.
And by the way, Dolly Parton's character name is Dora Lee.
Dorley, right? And we haven't gotten to Dorley yet. We'll get into her a little bit later. But first, we start by training Jane Fonda, and we meet our first. The first time we talk, any black character has lines, and that's the guy, the mailroom guy.
Oh yeah, I
Which
hated
I
him.
didn't-
You hated him?
I hated him.
Okay, please elaborate.
So I have a big thing, like when I see black people in like older movies like this, I always assume that they're going to be cranky or ruin something at some point because that's usually what happens.
Oh.
And he immediately came out the gate like, well, how am I supposed to get promoted if you keep taking my jobs? And I'm like,
See,
oh,
I had
somebody get this black man.
but see, I had a different read on it. Like I felt like it was like the movie was saying that there are multiple different levels of people not being passed over for work going on here. Like it was like they wanted to right off the gate, out of the gate, be like these white women have it rough, but this guy has been working in the mailroom waiting for a break, and he can't even get a secretary's job.
Well, I definitely.
So I kind of felt like they
definitely
were trying to.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they were. I feel like that's what they were trying to do. But that was my read on it.
What I took it as, because I watched this twice, and the first time I didn't understand why they were introducing this character who worked in a mailroom, but then I watched the movie and he doesn't appear ever again,
Yes,
and he's not even like. And I was like, why is this being like, we need a black person in this movie? Like,
well, it's clunky to be sure, but I feel like it seemed like there was an intention there to bring that in. Be like, hey, look, like this guy is also being discriminated against. I thought that was the intention, but you're right. Not enough importance for us to get any resolution on his storyline.
I didn't see it as like pointing out discrimination. I saw it as like a plot device. Like he is only hiring young women.
Oh,
how I saw it.
that's interesting
How
too.
am I supposed to
Okay.
get a job there? Like I have a penis, like that kind of thing.
Which
you
is
know,
fair
like,
because especially like in that time, women were the receptionists.
yeah.
Yeah.
A man
Well, and
as a
also like
receptionist
once you
was
meet
frowned
their
upon.
boss, I was like, oh, like that's what that comment was about. Like, oh, he only hires women, like and young attractive women. Like once you
okay.
meat the boss, that's when it kind of clicked for
Well,
me. And I was
apparently
like, oh,
not,
that's
because
what that was
later he
about.
says there's a bunch of old hags working there. If you remember.
Well, he says they've come through.
Crones.
there.
He calls them
Crones
crones,
have
actually,
come through.
which is another word I hate.
I think he says crones and hags. Like he double insults them. Like he's like, have you
he
seen
says
some of the old
bad things
crones?
about
And yeah.
women.
We'll
But
get to him. We'll
I
get to
just
him.
didn't like the black gent's line delivery. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just seemed too cranky for me, and I
was
cannot
like- you
stand
were like,
here
randomly
comes the
cranky
cranky-
black people.
here comes
I
the
agree.
cranky
Like
black
the
guy.
level of anger was a little bit too much. Like he was like, "This is my one line. I'm gonna make it count." Like that's how it kind of felt to me. You know,
Oscar on.
Like, exactly.
All right. So she's Jane Fonda. Judy is being trained. Violet is telling her all about the boss, and this job sounds terrible.
Just sounds awful. They can't have coffee cups on the desk or plants or photos. Like
That's according to what was the cranky admin's name?
Roz.
Oh God, she was terrible.
She's the fucking worst.
She's awful.
She's like one of like the
She's like
slaves that like tell on everybody.
Yes.
I'm like, you're supposed to band together, guys. You can't work against each
Yeah.
other.
Ugh,
That's
she's
her.
awful. As soon as they walk up to the main floor, it's like people in cubicles. There's no sunlight. It's just like so
Lots
bleak.
of gray.
And this is the first time we really start hearing about Frank, their boss,
Yeah.
and we also find out that she trained him.
Which
Vi-
is just so shitty.
Violet trained him, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But one more thing about Roz that we learn here is that she is like the company gossip. She will hide in the bathroom and listen to gossip and then take her notes back to Mr. Hart and tell on.
Yeah, I forgot
everyone.
that she like you've always got to check under the stall for feet.
Yeah.
We call that a dry snitch.
Whoa.
It's like a snitch, but like she does it very stealthily. Wow. So it's dry.
I'm glad
That's
to know
it.
this new slang term.
I know, hashtag dry snitch.
Dry snitch.
That sounds like a vaginal problem. Though.
it does. It really
Like,
does.
Go to your doctor and be like, "I'm sorry, doc, I've got some dry snitch.
And he offers
Do you
you
have
some
a cream for that?"
word. Yes. Oh man.
Snitch be gone.
So she's trained Frank, or Lily Tomlin. So Lily Tomlin, I'm not sure if this is where they bring it up, but we might as well bring it up now. Lily Tomlin is hoping to get a promotion. She's been working at the company for a very long time. She is got her shit together. Like we haven't really talked about what she looks like, but we kind of alluded to it, but she's very like put together, sleek, city working woman, you know.
She talks really fast and like everything she does has a purpose, and like she's walking around the office, she knows everybody and is like picking up files.
Efficient as fuck.
Yeah.
I like her like kimono jacket thing. I was
yes.
really
Yes.
into it.
Oh my God.
I don't know why she changes out of it
I
into
don't
a
know.
blazer, but
she
like,
changes in
I
and
was
out of
into
it multiple times, and I was
But
just like,
she
I want to have
wears
reasons to
it
do
all throughout the film too. I noticed that.
I think it's like her relaxed look. Like I think when she means business, she puts the power blazer on.
I just wish I had that kind of forethought for my day, so like I could just like switch from like kimono to like business attire.
So you could switch from
quickly.
kimono to like Heath's Tree Service polo shirt.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm picturing you like wearing a kimono, and then
that would never fly.
and then your dad's like, "We got to drive to the next site," and you're like, "All right." So you just like
Like-
throw off the kimono and put
and
the
then I
polo
would take
shirt
off
on
my
in the
the
hard hat.
kimono would never come off. That's the problem. I would just be like, I'm already in my kimono. So I'm just going to
I
stay here.
love that. So next we meet Dabney Coleman, who plays Frank, the boss.
Franklin Hart.
Hart,
Fart.
which is
fart.
Fart. I'm like, good fart joke. Props to
Yeah.
you.
Fart.
Played by Dabney Coleman, and he is giving a very pompous speech about teamwork.
I wrote that he is playing a caricature of an awful man. Like I feel like he was written to be like the perfect awful man.
I
Like
think
the
I've
perfectly
met
awful
this
man.
So I don't
I-
even think he's a caricature. I think
I have
I've
met this man.
person.
No,
I
I
have
mean
too.
I'm just saying like he said all the perfectly bad things that this person would say to be a bad person.
I would add that I've seen Dabney Coleman play other roles like this before. Like, I think this is kind of in his wheelhouse.
Well, like
The jerk boss.
There were a lot of lines he had that actually a lot of this I felt like could have been written by you, Nicole. Like some of the stuff that he said was like, it just was like, it didn't seem like something that a real person would actually say. It seemed like something that someone would write to have a bad person say.
I guess, but yes, I mean, certainly he's over the top, but I also feel like, yes, but they're all kind of over the top. I mean, all of them, like Dolly Parton is we haven't gotten to her yet, but she's kind of that over the top Southern charm kind of thing. It's all kind of a fantasy, but the things that he does are not totally, I mean, that it's kind of,
oh no, not
still
the things
happens.
he does.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's what's scary about it is like he probably is someone that says all of these things.
oh, he's out
And
there
I do
still
not wanna
working.
run into him.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's out there still working. That guy.
I don't
He's
wanna
everywhere.
work for him.
So he's actually, Frank is in the middle of this long speech about, I know you women aren't allowed to play football, which I think is a real shame because it's the best way to teach the importance of teamwork. So right off the bat, he's really sort of
That was immediately when I would have been fired for striking him in his throat.
like just ninja striking.
This is
And
the
went
first.
home.
This is the first time that his chair slips. And
Oh,
this
yeah.
is both the first moment of the movie that's absurd and the first time this is like a hints at what's to come.
I
would-
also think that moment is funny because I sit in office chairs that are shitty all day long, and they definitely do that. And like that's happened like several times in my office where somebody's just like sitting in a chair and like leaning back, and then all of a sudden their arms are like flailing and they're trying to catch themselves, and it's awesome. It's so funny. It definitely lightens the mood.
I think the chair is one of the things. It's almost like somebody wrote like a screenplay about movies and was like, that chair is going to be important later. Let's make sure we plant that. They do that with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
almost everything that happens in the plot is like
Yeah.
a seed is planted, but in a
Very
not in a
obvious.
subtle way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Frank hits on Jane Fonda's character immediately. He's like, "Oh, you're pretty."
Yeah,
Not
disgusting.
like those other. Does he bring up the crones at this point? Is
Yes.
that when he says it?
Crones.
Oh my
Yeah, you should see some of the crones that have come through here.
Yeah, he's truly awful, like right off the bat. Awful.
I don't understand how he hasn't got a Form QB 1212 filed on him yet.
It was difficult to do that at this time. There wasn't really a lot in place, I think, to.
Yeah, and I think they even discussed that later too. Like, who would we even go talk to?
That's true.
Okay, so a good segue here, because this is when we get introduced to Dolly Parton's character, Dorley, right?
Yes. Well, can I just point out, Frank says one more thing before he
Okay.
leaves. He's like, if you ever need anything, come in here. I mean, the only reason I have an office on this floor is to be close to my girls. And I was like, barf. I'm going to barf all over this floor.
And then he asked her to get him coffee.
Yep.
Violet, yeah,
Yeah, because you got to keep those strong women in their place.
you do.
You can't let them think that they're on your level. So then we get to meet Dolly.
Yeah, she's perfect.
She is perfect in every way. I
Love
adore
her
her.
outfit.
I used to have one of those when I
Can't
was like
get enough
13.
of Dolly. I love her.
My never-ending Dolly question throughout the movie was whether this was pre-boob job.
She never
Or
had a
post-
boob
She
job.
didn't?
No, those are just. She
No, I
just
think
has
those
those
are
Why
boobs.
is her brassiere so pointy?
She's
Were they
got.
pointy back then?
Well, I mean, the subject of Dolly Parton's boobs were now, as an adult, I look back on that as being just another way to just.
Hold women down.
Yeah,
I believe
because
that.
the subject of her boobs was like a constant thing in the 1980s. It was
I
a
love
constant
it.
joke. But no, those were her natural boobs. Dolly Parton has made no secret that in her life she has had surgery for upkeep purposes.
Yeah.
But she did not at any time, I think, augment her breasts to make them larger.
That's fair.
No, I think she may have
I
had a
think she
couple
just
of.
wears like a Fredericks of Hollywood, like strap them up and keep them there
Yeah,
kind of bra,
pointy.
because they're
Yeah.
pointy, but
It was
it looks
scary.
like there's just like layer upon layer of fabric
It does.
hoisting those 20 pounders up.
So proud. I mean, I have big
mean,
boobs, so I can sympathize.
yeah.
I appreciate her having them in her chin. I was just like, Lord, I've never bought
And
a bra
she-
that's that pointy.
I know.
Is a delight. Like she has she just like floats in like an angel. She's so sweet,
I
and
love
she's
her voice.
she's trying to make friends, and like we find out pretty immediately that the office thinks that she's the boss's mistress, and they're all ostracizing her like right away. It's like one of those things where
Yep.
women are just like not supporting each other. It's
Yeah.
very upsetting.
I was about to say that was like one of my moments where I was like, okay, so nobody wanted to talk to her at all to see where this was going. Everybody immediately was like, well, she's scummy because she's sleeping with the boss. And I was just like,
Yeah.
They're like gossiping hardcore about her from the very beginning.
Yeah, and
Won't
I
sit
thought it
with
was
her at
pretty
lunch.
Terrible. Like they were so mean to her. I felt so bad for her.
But it's all very like behind her back. But I mean, she knows what's going on. Like they won't let her sit with them at lunch and
and even when Frank is super scummy to her in that first second that we meet her, it's very clear that she's still trying to do her job.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that she can tell that he's being disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she like makes that pretty clear when she like goes in and has that conversation with him too. Like, doesn't she say something about like going to a convention, but like, oh, but next time I better check that there's actually a convention going on.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
they basically just took her on vacation and like, she didn't even realize like what was going on.
We're jumping a little bit ahead, but we're already there. So let's talk about it. He, at one point, Frank calls Dolly is, Dorley is Frank's personal secretary. Like
Right.
she is his secretary. He hits on her flagrantly. Like at one point he calls her in the first time we see them in the same off room together. He calls her in. He asks her to turn around.
Yeah.
Once you call her in, he says, grab your pad and bring your pretty little face in here.
He arranges his stuff on his desk so that he can easily knock over the pencils so that she'll have to bend over to get them and he can look down her shirt.
Gross.
Yeah.
Very gross. So gross. And this is like the cartoonish aspect of him. That's like,
But only because I think they're drawing attention to it. Like I think what he's doing is not that. It's not that unusual. Like I think that still happens.
I definitely think that still happens. Like I think there are definitely still men that like will stand under a staircase to try and see up your skirt when you're walking up. You know, like there's still gross people out there who will try and do gross things.
When I waited tables, there were men that used to ask me to turn around.
yeah.
See, and being that it was a comedy, I feel like they were trying to make it
So it's not so serious.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They were trying to heighten it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's
So we
still
don't all
just as
cry the
gross,
whole
but
time.
that still does happen.
Yeah, so we're not just crying.
We're not just crying. We're just like, it's so true.
Also, it's like 2016, so like it should be better.
I think it's a little bit more,
Maybe a little bit.
more hidden.
A little bit.
He also tries to tackle her.
Yes,
to
they get on the
ground.
ground.
There was a lot of harassment that teetered on some really big issues that were like, you
Yeah.
would need to call the cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
she just gets right up and then
well,
his
she's
wife,
getting upset at this point.
Yeah.
Like I think she was starting to get upset, and then the wife breezes in, who is
the
super
wife is
oblivious.
all throughout the movie. It's like stuff happens and she's just like, I don't see it. Like
I kept waiting for her. I mean, I feel like that was mostly for convenience sake, but I kept waiting for her to just be like, no, I actually know what the fuck is going on, you guys. I'm just playing dumb. But she never does. Like
Yeah,
she
no.
literally breezes
Yeah.
in and she's like, oh. And they have the most awkward interaction, like her and
she
Dolly.
sees that Dorley got the scarf
She's
from
like,
him.
oh, that looks beautiful on you.
He
looks
appreciates you so
beautiful.
much.
Yeah.
And
I was
you're
like,
so
what?
attractive.
I was like, why is this character so dumb?
I don't know. Like I kept thinking there was more to her where she would be like, look, I know you're banging my husband, but I haven't slept with him in 20 years because he's a disgusting pig, and
I'm just staying with him for his money
or something. Yeah, I was really confused about that. But okay, so
Jane Fonda's just cried at work.
she cried at work. So she's had a pretty shitty first day. That's right. We're still on the first day.
Her first day was there. And then again, she only worked there for like a week.
Well,
Yeah, true.
she goes home, and the first thing she sees is her gross husband. Again, another gross male character.
Yeah, like
Dropping
what
off
is he doing?
divorce
Like
papers.
jacking off in her
And his name is
doorknob or something.
Dick.
Like,
Yeah,
Huh?
his name
is
Dick.
Dick.
His name
oh,
is
of course
Dick.
it is. I didn't even realize that.
I didn't either because I didn't remember anyone's names. I was like, gross husband.
My several issues with the gross husband coming or being there was, one, he came to drop off the divorce papers.
I thought they were already divorced though.
No, he said you just have to sign these last
Okay,
papers.
okay.
And then two, his mistress was
Brought
in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
in his like, midlife crisis car. that he had.
Yes.
And wasn't he
midlife
wearing like
crisis
a
car.
tracksuit or something?
Yes.
He was like,
He was, like, in
wearing
full
the whole
Adidas.
full Adidas. He
full
went full
Adidas.
Adidas.
And Jane Fonda was just
He had
so
like a
classy.
Miata or something. He
Or
was
what's her
driving like a
name?
Miata.
Judy's so classy because she was just
Yeah.
like, how is so-and-so? I would have
Yeah.
walked up to the car, pulled her out,
Okay, look.
fought everybody
I was
involved,
bothered
set the
by
car
this
on fire.
interaction because she seemed
been a
like
very
she was
different
still
Judy.
holding a candle for this guy. That's what I felt like. She was
I
like,
did too.
"Oh, hey, how are you? Oh, what are you doing here?" And she looked like she was excited to see him, and I was like, "Oh God!" But
And
I mean,
this is when you subconsciously cast me in that role. No, I'm just kidding.
no. I mean, I think you would be funny in it, but it was like bothersome to me that she was. But I mean, I guess whatever.
I mean,
She's
yeah, I
supposed to
think
be
the
still
one
in love with
thing
him or something.
while I
guess
was
that's her thing,
watching was like wondering like about the Bechdel test and everything, and like just trying to figure out where these women fell and.
but- oh, they passed
Because
we'll talk. We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk about.
But
that
you know, just because of the time period, I was like, I was doing the same thing. I was expecting her to be like, I'm gonna fawn over my ex, and I was like, why? He's so skeezy.
She didn't. I don't know. She didn't seem to. She seemed to be like, oh, okay.
She was too
well, I'm
comfortable.
gonna. She seemed to be polite. She didn't seem to be
I would-
into him.
Well, I mean, we can get to this, I guess, as time goes on, but I feel like she was sort of defined by her relationships with the other women, which is refreshing for once. But in general, I feel like her motivations throughout the film were weaker than the weakest of the other two characters.
I agree.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I guess she's motivated by a sense of rightness and what is right and wrong.
Yeah, but
More
I think
so
that's
than
such a
anything
weak
else.
motivation.
It
'cause
is,
It's
yeah.
not concrete.
It's
you
not
know?
like my boss is sexually harassing me
Yeah,
like
and has
Dolly,
been,
or my
like,
boss
or has been
is
fucking me.
undermining me and like taking away my power as a career woman, like though is with Lily Tomlin. So the motivation there is a little weak. Right after this, we go into the second day. Violet
Is
a
answering all those phone calls.
fucking boss.
Yeah, she's like answering phone calls, stapling stuff to envelopes.
She's doing
gets
everything.
talking to her children.
She gets a call from her
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
cute.
She's like queen of the world.
She
There's
made
more
that
than
happen.
one peanut butter and banana sandwich in the world.
Yeah, she's handling it all.
I enjoyed it. I was so proud of her.
Yeah.
Then we see Jane Fonda's character. Dolly Parton wants to invite her to lunch to try to get to know her because she's the new girl.
And Judy turns her down.
Yeah,
a
she
little bit
shuns her.
In a very
Yeah.
awkward way.
Yeah.
Like that you could tell there's something bigger happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but she also makes a comment, didn't she, like when they were shopping for scarves about her husband and like
Yes,
it was
she-
his
she-
secretary that
Yeah.
she
Yes.
like so like
It hit close to home.
yeah.
So it's projection, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit of projection. She's projecting that on
I
Dolly.
mean, I kind of get it, but also like Dorley didn't do it, and she's Dolly Parton,
didn't.
and she's like,
and women need to support each
We
other.
do, we do
Yeah.
need to support each other. And then it was like so not subtle. It's like
Yeah.
that moment where it's like, oh, I don't like this girl and I don't want to go to lunch with her and I'm walking away, but I'm going to turn around and check to see if she's still looking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, way to make her know that
Yeah.
Right.
you're not like trying to deal with her.
All right. So next we sort of like, I guess this is maybe a week later. I don't know. We don't really know how much time has passed, but we get back to Jane Fonda at work and it's another day and she is definitely more in the swing of things. She's answering the phone. She's stapling things. I don't really know what her job is. Let's be honest. No one will sit with Dolly at lunch still. Like they're all now Jane Fonda has people to sit with at lunch.
Yeah.
And there's an extra seat and they like actively
Walk away.
move their shit like to that part of the table so that she won't sit there.
However, I was very proud that the black woman was in on this table.
Oh yeah, she was
there.
definitely she was in the upper
So
echelon.
even though Dora Lee's not in, which sucks. Sorry, Dora Lee. The black woman
But-
has prevailed.
Progress, social progress.
She didn't have a line, but she boxed out Dolly Parton.
Again, attitudey black people.
Okay, here's an important scene. I feel like so Violet, Lily Tomlin's character, has an idea to color code the accounts. She has like an idea to make the workplace more their accounting more efficient. She goes into his office and is like talking to him about this idea, and he's basically like, "That sounds like a lot of work," and he sends her away. So the next thing that happens is that they run into him with the boss above him, and they're
Mr.
like,
Hinkle.
and he's raving about this brand new system that Frank is going to put in place that color codes everything. And he's like, this guy is great. I mean, he says, you're a fine piece of man, Frank. And she just stands there. She can't say anything, but she knows like and this has happened to me. Okay. Like this has actually happened to me before. You come in, you have an idea, the boss shuts it down. Like I've actually been told, no, that's stupid, or that'll never work, or whatever. And then the next day at a meeting, they give that idea like it's their idea, and then everybody loves it and they take credit for it. This has happened to me before. And so, and much like myself in that situation, there's nothing you can do. Like, you're low on the totem pole, so you just stand there and listen to it and listen to the other.
Call them out in front of the big boss. You can't be like, that was my idea,
or
I brought that up
client
to you
or whoever it
yesterday.
is.
You can't do that. It's so inappropriate in a work environment, and you should be able to do that.
You should, but you can't.
And the reality at this point too, when we think about time period, is that if a woman does it, then it's like, she must be going through something at home. Of course she didn't come up with this idea.
Yeah.
And like, you just see like the disgust and like the heartbreak on her face. It was like actually a really hard moment. Yeah. I was like, no.
Well, because it's one thing to be told that your idea is stupid, but then to have someone steal it and then have to sit there and listen to someone else rave about what a brilliant idea it is in front of you.
It's awful.
It's fucking humiliating and so frustrating. It's like yet another barrier to, like, you just see yourself like not like there's like it's only as far as you're allowed to go, and you can't go any further than that.
And I think all women have been through this to some degree too, because like there's a huge thing in like because that article came out recently about the women in the White House who were like in meetings, when a woman says something, immediately like somebody else would back it up, and it was like this unspoken agreement that like all of the women were like, if a woman presents an idea, you immediately followed up with, like Stacey's idea is really great, and like here's why. Smart. And like you immediately back them up so that no one else can take the idea from her and like use it as their own. And like it sucks that we have to do that
still,
and like
every day.
Okay, so the next scene is the promotion. Well, he's telling her about that. He's telling her Frank has brought Violet into the office, and he's telling her that he gave it to a guy.
Yep.
And she's justifiably furious about it.
She has 5 years and you're already above him,
and trained him just as like she trained Frank. So here are the reasons that Frank gives her for not promoting Violet. Number one, the other guy was a college grad, and
which was bullshit.
Right. She's like, yeah, but I've been working here for like 10 years. Secondly, he says, well, he has a family to support.
She's like, and I don't. She has 4 kids.
She has 4 kids, and she's the breadwinner.
She's a single mom.
A single mom with 4 kids. And number 3, the clients would rather deal with men.
Which, unfortunately, for the time, is pretty spot on.
Well, these are
also
all
shenanigans.
Common reasons, I think, for women not to get promoted to leadership positions.
Then. There are still people who would
like to deal with
definitely
men. Absolutely.
So Violet gets upset. And he says, as she should. And Frank says, spare me the women's lib crap.
Yeah.
And she goes off on him.
Yeah.
Like, she's really like, this, screw you. This is unacceptable. Like, you are threatened by me. Like, she is very honest.
Yas, queen.
I mean, she definitely puts her foot down. I will definitely say this makes a mark on the Jasmine tally of something I would do. Especially when she snatches her coat up and says, I'm going to go get a drink.
Oh, yeah. So she leaves. But not before she throws Dolly under the bus.
She reveals that Mr. Hart has been saying he and Dorley have been having an affair.
Dolly comes in the middle of this argument, and she's basically like bringing Dolly into it in a very like humiliating way and like slut shaming her in front of the boss. And she's like totally surprised.
That? Yeah. And Mr. Hart, and Violet is like, Mr. Hart has, of course.
Yeah. And then she's like, we know what's been going on. And Dolly is like, I don't know what you're talking about, because she hasn't. We all know that she hasn't been sleeping with the boss. In fact, she's been harassed repeatedly and has been fending him off. Mm-hmm. And now she realizes why everyone's been treating her the way that they have.
Victim blaming.
Well, this begins what I call the Atta-girl segment, because this is what Violet's like, I'm gonna get a drink, and Margaret's like, Atta-girl.
Yeah, she does that a couple times. So this scene surprised me.
The Dolly Parton scene?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And was great.
It was amazing.
She
crushed him.
Was pissed and was not holding back.
Dick off, which was
awesome. That was wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she did.
Which I would like to point out, it's interesting that Violet, like whenever Mr. Hart, like whenever she was telling him about himself, he was like, oh, well, it's your place to remember that I'm your boss, before she left out. Mm-hmm. Whereas Dorley threatened to shoot his dick off, and he said nothing. And I loved
afraid
it,
of her.
But I was like,
Well,
Yeah.
she's like, I have a gun in my purse. I'm going to change you from a rooster to a hen in one shot.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And he's like still trying to like get like, well, just, and she's like not having it. I know that you throw the pens on the floor so that you can look down my shirt, and I'm not putting up with that anymore, and you are a disgusting pig. And she really lets him have it, and then she runs out of the office
to get a drink, and Margaret's like, "Had a girl."
Yeah, exactly. So they're all at the bar. Two of them are drinking. I think Jane Fonda's drinking some milk. Or I don't know if that was a
Really?
White Russian.
Well,
I'm not
so-
sure what that was.
So yeah, it looked like a White Russian. I did enjoy
was
the
a
fact
glass
that
of
they
milk.
all have three
If it was
different
milk,
glasses.
it would have been me. That's another way that character would have been me.
Yeah,
There
I
was,
liked
like-
they weren't all drinking martinis.
Yeah, there was like one margarita looking glass, which was Violet's.
Violet was
Yeah,
drinking a
Lily
margarita.
Tomlin.
Dolly was drinking a
Dolly
good
was
old
drinking
American beer.
Yeah. And then there was the milk that looked, I had no idea what it was. I was like,
Yeah.
where did she get this? Not from the bar.
Milk on ice.
So funny, you guys were looking at the drinks. Like I just like tune that shit out.
It
I feel
shows
like
that
it
we have a
tells
problem.
you. No, I think it tells you something about the character.
Yeah.
That's also fair. It
Yeah,
does.
they
I
choose
just
those
loved
drinks
this
on purpose.
scene so much with the three of them at the bar, just like getting drunk. They're like all new friends, like none of them liked Dorley before this moment, and now all of them have this like
Yep.
rallying cry.
Well, we hear
It made
the
me so
phrase
happy.
"pink ghetto" again,
I
which
know,
is something
Pink
we heard.
Tower Ghetto.
Pink Tower Ghetto.
actually,
Well, that's what
and
we heard
it was
in-
in Baby Boom.
in Baby
right?
Boom, yeah.
I wrote
Because
that
basically
down.
they're saying we can't go any farther because we're women, and this is as far as we can go.
And they say things that really like hit close to home for me. They say it's the same all over anyway, and complain to who?
Yeah.
I did like the opening lines of that scene.
Yeah, I
And it
liked
was
that.
like they were all invested in each other's like background with this man. So I did enjoy that.
And I think what you bring up is interesting, Sarah, because there are in corporate environments, I think there are places to make people accountable for stuff like that. But especially in the film industry and in the arts, unless you're working for like a big network or something, they're really like when that stuff happens, there is
No one to complain to.
there is nobody to complain to, and people frequently are silent about those things because they're afraid of getting fired, just like these women are. So
Just look at Profiles Theater, man.
yeah. So then they decide to go. They've got a joint,
Place.
right? So Violet's got her son has rolled her a joint. It's in her purse.
Because he's a
marijuana
brilliant
cigarette.
child.
Marijuana cigarette, which they decide to go to Dolly's and get high.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Which was just awesome. And they were drinking out of like giant beer mugs.
Yeah,
And they were smoking some Maui Wowie.
there's some Maui Wowie. Yes,
I enjoy that Jane Fonda's like, yeah, the last time I smoked, it didn't really do anything to
Right.
me. Then cut to her completely stoned.
Yeah, just completely smash cut to her, just like laughing her head off.
Another way that
Love
this
it.
character would be me.
Love it.
and they're just like getting high and they're giggling and they're bonding. And then
me so
comes
happy.
my favorite part of the movie, which if I could sum up this next sequence in one word, it would be
The
with an A.
fantasy sequence.
Which I was really surprised by. I did not expect a fantasy
They ran
sequence.
so long too. I was
I
like, oh, so
know.
we're just gonna have a fantasy sequence.
I was so
like
happy
a
about
triple
it.
fantasy.
When we got to the first fantasy sequence, I was like, oh my God, like there's a fantasy sequence.
Yeah.
And then they just kept coming.
I know.
They didn't
and
stop.
and they just built on each other too.
It was
like they
amazing.
just got like more and more nuts and awesome.
I was like, this is maybe the most incredible movie that's ever been made.
Like Dora Lee roasting him on a spit.
Okay, we haven't gotten there yet. So the first
My favorite.
scene, the first fantasy is Judy's.
the manhunt.
The manhunt, because
The
they're
whole
joking
office
about how
hunts
he's
Mr.
hunt.
Hart.
We didn't mention this, but in Frank's office, there's like a wall with like a deer head, and he's a hunter. And Judy's like, oh, I could never do that. And then like she goes into this fantasy sequence where they're like joking about hunting Frank, and he's like running through the office, and his clothes are
they
torn.
have torches and rifles and
Yeah, so they're chasing him through the office with torches, and then he runs into his office, and Judy is there, dressed in like this safari outfit,
Yeah.
and she's got a
She's
shotgun
hunting
with
lion.
like the ammo like strapped
strapped
like
to her
Rambo
chest.
style across her
Which
chest.
was awesome.
And then she spins the gun like drill team style. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
that's the like the cliche of like the super uptight person being like the most like secretly aggressive and insane.
Well, it was very satisfying at this point.
Yeah,
I did like it.
It's very satisfying. So she turns the gun on him and he's like, why, I'm just a regular guy trying to do my job. I'm not that bad. Why would you can't, it's not worth shooting me. And she's like, oh, and this is a phrase that keeps getting repeated in all the fantasies. You're a sexist, lying, egotistical bigot.
Yeah. Sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot.
Oh, okay. You're right. I missed hypocritical. And then she calls him a wart on the nose of humanity, and I'm going to shoot it off.
Love it.
Now, what I didn't see coming, I think we'll save to talk a little bit about later. But in this fantasy, she shoots at him, and then we see his head mounted on the wall, just like the deer's head.
Which is awesome.
It was such an interesting.
And
movie.
this is dark
Also,
as fuck.
something to note is that each fantasy has a different style, like a different, and this is in black and white, slightly sepia.
Yeah, it's like a desaturated kind of look to it. So it's kind of like, I don't know what they were going with here in terms of
Like
genre.
old-fashioned.
I don't know.
'cause
It's not a
initially it seemed
film
like it was
noir.
supposed to be a-
Westernish.
Yeah,
to me.
it seemed like they were going to try to do.
Dorlees is what
Yeah, she's definitely got the Western. So I don't know if this was meant to be more like a film noir kind of thing, but it didn't really,
like
the tone.
like a gangster movie or something.
Yeah, like they were
Yeah,
trying
that's
to do like
kind of what a film
the
noir is.
detective. Like,
Well, it was very
Yeah,
like
see.
lots of shadows, and so it had a film
Yeah,
noir
that
look
makes
to it. I don't know that the style really matched up with that, but I think that's what they're going for. Then cut to everyone eating ribs.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Which I don't know how they got the ribs, and all of a sudden Judy has on
Dorley's
like
husband made 'em the night
streamer things
before.
on her.
Dorley's husband
That's
made
true.
them the night before.
What was what's that guy's name? Danny. What's his name?
Dwayne.
Dwayne made
All
ribs the
men
night
have
before.
really
But I also
names.
really wanted ribs at that.
Those
round
ribs-
table.
those
I
ribs
was like,
looked really
what I
good.
wouldn't do
Good.
for some ribs
They
right
were
now, you
juicy,
guys.
and Dolly's nails were fantastic. I would like to
know.
say she
know.
originated the long
Also,
nail. How do you
though,
wipe your ass thing?
How
I know.
like how would you eat ribs with nails that long? Like I would need so many things to like clean out under
Look,
my nails
it-
after that.
you
Ugh.
know
Not
she's
her.
got practice eating ribs with those nails.
She has.
That's
like
true.
you- it's
That's
really
true.
all
it's
in the
probably like
finger
her night,
pads.
like her midnight snack.
Like,
she
she
just
gets
like
them in the middle of the night
wakes
and
up,
just
rolls
chows
over, and like picks up her little rib from her platter and is like
Eats it
So
without
next-
even smudging
Done.
the lipstick.
rolls
So next
back
is
over.
the lovely Dorlee fantasy.
Oh my
which
God,
is
the
Hillary's
Dorlee
favorite.
fantasy.
It's so good.
And I was like,
She's a
oh my
cat-
God, another one? What?
She's a cowgirl and she rides up on a horse.
No surprise.
Objectifies Mr. Hart the way he objectified
Yeah,
her.
so we
I
see a
loved it.
recreation of that scene where she calls him into her office, only she's now the sexual aggressor.
Which is amazing.
It was amazing and also made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I was starting to, because now we have the actor Dabney Coleman is now playing this like person who's being humiliated and sexually like harassed. And it's like I was feeling very sorry for him. I mean, I know
I
that
was feeling vindictive. I was feeling like I wish that every man
but I
could
knew
feel
that this was a fantasy, and I was like, so I was really buying into him being, and I was like this didn't feel to me like the last one where I was like, yeah, fucking shoot that guy. Like I was like, oh, I feel like this is upsetting. Like she's like telling him like, ooh, I like those pants, but you need to make them tighter. And she's like
You
telling
got a
him,
nice package.
This is
it
like
was
my dream.
insane.
I think the
This
thing
is
with
like my dream.
This
I
is
know.
why
wish-
Hillary runs her own business.
I
now.
wish that I was like honestly, guys. I would have really fit in as a man in the 1950s
I think
to
you would
take
have.
advantage of women. I like really
You
would
missed
have.
her calling.
And, like,
Maybe you did in another life.
I probably was in another life because like if 20 years from now men were in the position that women were back then, you better believe I'd be like, come here, let me check out those pants. You need to get them a little tighter. Like you better believe that's who I would be. I would be that in a heartbeat.
I
Hillary,
found
getting real.
myself.
I would be.
Getting real.
I would sexually harass every attractive man in my office. Just look out, boys.
See,
I'm coming for you.
I wouldn't do that, but I want every man to
Hillary, you're
experience
going to have
this.
your own office, and we're going to lock the door.
And I also found myself.
leave me in there.
I'm going to lock you in
I
every
like
day
inflict
when there's a
just
man in the
pain
office.
upon
Don't
every man that has done this.
That's
to
fair.
women.
I mean, like
When you
I
go
think
in
that
to
every man
visit,
should
when you go in to see
experience it.
Hillary, make sure you're wearing baggy pants.
Baggy.
Have you noticed how
You don't
men
want to set her
always,
off.
Get super like sensitive
your
about
hair
being
is
objectified. Like anytime they're slightly objectified, they're
Who,
like,
men?
"I'm being
Yeah.
objectified." Like they have to comment on it and like
Well, it feels weird to them. I think this is where
But
a lot of
also-
homophobia comes from.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's the fear of being treated by other men the way
Like a
men
woman.
treat women. I really do.
But like watching the scene, I felt myself thinking, oh, I'm sure men have seen this and thought, oh, that couldn't happen. A woman can't take over a man.
And
that's
or
why
that wouldn't bother me.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. It's like,
that's what I
ooh,
was
this is an
thinking. I was like,
attractive woman.
That wouldn't bother
And
me.
I think that's why I like watching the scene. Like I understood what was happening. Like I understood the role reversal, but I was also like knowing the scummy dude that they had already created him to be. Like even if the roles were reversed, if she said something like that, he would be into it.
Well, she wasn't saying sexy things. She was saying really like
Yeah, I
disgusting
think they did a
things.
good job because the things she was saying, and I think it really speaks to what harassment is really about. Like it wasn't necessarily about flattery.
It was about power.
About power.
Yeah.
Like she was in like taking control over his body. Like she was like she was like, why are you wearing that bow tie? You know I hate that bow tie. I can't have those stripes staring at me.
Yeah,
take it off.
Oh, yeah, you're
And
right.
loosen
You're
up,
right.
unbutton your
true.
shirt. Like she was really like taking his power and his agency and his body away from him. And that's really what harassment is about. And I think they did a very smart job of
Making that clear.
showing that.
Yeah,
But still,
it feels like a sketch that Jasmine would have written.
Anything's
Okay,
possible.
Here's the thing: is like if it was like me and Andy doing that sketch, it would make me uncomfortable. But given the character that we know that guy is, and like Dolly Parton being this attractive woman, to me it was just, it didn't sell it quite as much. But like I now hearing you say those words like without watching it happen and without her being like this sexy like buxom woman, you know, like
well, they were still lighting her they
yeah.
were lighting her with like the hair light and
oh for
You
sure.
know,
I mean, like she didn't look like a creepy boss. She looked like a beautiful woman.
They didn't light her like a creepy boss.
Right.
But I still feel like, to me, this scene was the one scene in the movie that really walked the line between drama and comedy for me.
I can see
Like,
that.
it was
I can
very
see that now, like looking
close.
back on it.
Because a
Where it
creepy
was-
boss can be a beautiful woman. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And like if you've ever seen Horrible Bosses,
Yeah.
I mean,
I haven't seen it.
Jennifer Aniston plays the boss who
Sexy.
like sexually harasses Charlie Day. And like
Okay.
at one point she's a dentist and she like shoots his crotch with the like water gun used for the mouth and is like, "Oh, I see it. You're circumcised." And
Yeah,
like
I mean, she's
those
ridiculous.
scenes are like, "Oh God, it's so uncomfortable." And like he hates it and he's a married man and doesn't like
Yeah.
it. And like, so I get it. It's like it's gross. Like,
She
hearing it
puts
said again,
his
I'm like,
face in
"Ugh."
her boobs, too.
She
Which
does.
was like
Yeah.
a moment where I was
Yeah.
like, see, now I feel like you're taking the power away from her again.
Yep.
That was a
Yeah.
moment where I felt like, I was like, guys, come on.
I think that's
You
the moment
messed
where I
up
have
now.
the most problems with is that moment.
Like, was that
she had
had to
done
have been the
something else,
director's
like-
idea? I can't imagine that the screenwriter wrote that because
See,
then
I
now
would
you're
hope
taking her
not.
power
I think
away
a much
again.
stronger choice would have been for like her to put her hand on his head and like smush him to his knees or something, you know.
I think it
versus,
would have
like,
been. I mean,
shoving
if
him
you're
in the
going to go with
boobs, you know?
physical contact, like grabbing the package would be the way to
Oh,
go.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, that'd be an easy one.
That's
But
definitely
maybe
more
she wasn't
powerful.
comfortable with that. I don't know, but I wouldn't have been comfortable with smushing a man's
his-
face
or
into my
Just
boobs either.
shoving his
I mean,
head,
I would
like,
if it
in her
was really
crotch or
funny. I'm
something.
not
Well,
going to lie to you.
because
Well, that's
putting
what I'm talking
a
about,
man's
just, like force
face-
him to his knees, like
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
have been an image, you know. That's
Yeah.
like him,
I
her
think
taking
that
the
would have
power
been
away, but
too. I think
it
that
may
would
have
have
been too
crossed the
much for
line
that-
into
for that time,
upsetting.
yeah.
So then she hog ties him.
which is
Like he runs away and she lassos him with a smile on her face and hog ties him. It was
Puts him on a
amazing.
steak to be cooked.
yeah.
I didn't see that part. I must
she
have.
roasts him on a
She
spit.
roasts him on a spit. And it's awesome.
Okay, I don't know
Like
how
a
I missed
lamb
that.
at
I
the
don't know if
Greek
that got
festival.
like. How
It
did
was
I miss
beautiful.
that? All right, so then we get to Violet's fantasy.
Which was my favorite personally.
Of course,
A fairy tale
Very Snow White-esque.
with animation of cartoon animals.
I
which
feel
is
like
wonderful.
this was like Lily Tomlin was crushing it in the scene. Like her
Just crushing it.
saccharine smile with the touch of evil behind it was just
Loved it.
amazing. So she's dressed like Snow White, and there's like animated birds flying around her and animated creatures following her around, like from a Disney movie.
Giving her the thumbs up for
She's
the rat poison.
Asked to get Mr. Hart's coffee.
and poisons his coffee,
Yes.
smiling as she stirs
has a
it.
ring that she opens with
Yes,
like this
yeah.
powder inside that she sprinkles and stirs into the coffee, and it like destroys the spoon that she uses to stir.
Wonderful.
Like it like melts the spoon.
The scene was brilliant.
The cartoon animals are giving her the thumbs up.
I mean, which is impressive to me. I love when cartoon animals do things that cartoon animals shouldn't do, like give thumbs up for poison.
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
so she gives him the coffee, and smoke pours out of his ears.
His head spins around.
And then she like uses the chair to like catapult him out the window.
It was very Sweeney
Into his
Todd-esque to
Yeah.
me. Like the
Very
Sweeney
Sweeney
Todd
Todd.
chair.
Yeah, like she like hiked it up like with a wrench or something.
And then all the shackles on the
Okay.
employee prisoners fall off.
Yeah, they're all like in a dungeon, and all their shackles fall off, and then Dolly and Violet and Judy are all dressed like princesses, like Disney princesses, and they're like toasting from these giant goblets in a princess castle that slowly fades away into the background.
Definitely my
It was-
second favorite moment in that movie.
It was like the most incredible
first
thing that's ever
favorite?
We
happened.
haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay.
And when we do, I will say what it is.
So this, I honestly, for me, this was the high point of the movie to me. I feel like when we get to the next couple things that happens, it starts to go off the rails a little bit for me.
It was awesome.
But this was like, I was like, if this movie continues to be this batshit insane, like why did this movie not win an Oscar? Like this is like in the pantheon of greatest movies. Now here is the thing that I did not expect to come from the fantasy sequence. Everything, like all the major points of the fantasy sequence then become plot points in the movie.
In reverse. Yeah.
In reverse.
Yep.
Correct. So the first thing that happens here is that Lily Tomlin is talking to her coworker about how she's going to snap.
The unnamed black woman.
Unnamed black woman. Does she have a name?
I don't
could
think
look it
so.
up on IMDb.
Yeah, on my notes, I'm like, Violet talks to the one black woman.
There are two more.
I don't remember them saying her name. She also had mentioned how she had to do all this shopping for them. I had to buy new Skinny and Sweet.
Yeah,
Skinny
It's like
and
their
Sweet.
version of Sweet and Low. I had to buy more rat poison, and I'm like, why are you buying rat poison?
Well, rat poison was for her house, wasn't it? And then the sweet and whatever was for the office. She was like, I needed to buy rat
that's
poison
where
for the
that
house. And like
happened.
there was a bunch of stuff that she had to buy
See,
for her
the
house.
big problem, I think, is that Skinny and Sweet really needs to consider their packaging a little bit more because it looks
or the
exactly
rat
like.
poison needs to consider their
Well, the rat
packaging.
poison's done the best they can. They put the skull and crossbones on there. Skinny and
rather
Sweet,
small
I really think, is to blame here. Their art department needs to get their shit together because the sweetener that they use at work looks exactly like the box of rat poison.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise. And she pulls out the rat poison by mistake and pours it into her coffee while she's ranting and raving about the boss.
Yeah.
Had a little trouble buying this, but okay.
And
I'll go with
nobody
it.
notices that, even though the label
And she
rat
leaves it
poison
on there,
is
on the
like
counter.
left
Yeah.
out. Yeah. And like nobody else came in and was like, what's this box of rat poison doing here?
So there's rat poison in the coffee. And she is carrying it to the boss, and he puts it to his lips, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Is he going to drink this
Yeah.
coffee?
Yeah.
Is that going to happen right now? But the thing that we set up early on in the film, that the chair doesn't work, which, by the way, also the chair bumping him out of the window was another thing that happened in the fantasy.
Yeah.
The chair goes haywire, and he actually falls to the
And
ground
the coffee all spills out, and he doesn't drink a drop.
And
Nope.
he hits his head on the credenza.
and goes...
Well, okay,
Which was-
stop.
where was
What
that
is a credenza?
credenza?
What is a
It's a
credenza?
plant, isn't it?
It's
No.
it's like a like
part of the
chest
chair.
of drawers.
Oh.
A
Oh.
credenza is like a chest of drawers, like
You're right.
like an
It
end
is.
table, but
How
like
did
a
he hit his
long
head on
end
it?
table.
If
I
he
don't
was
know.
on the
He
chair.
did hit his head on
The-
it. I don't know. He hit it on the
It's
floor.
there's a cabinet behind him. I think that's what they're talking
and
about.
that's what a
Anyway, he
credenza
hits his head and he goes unconscious. So
He gets taken away in an ambulance.
gets taken away in an ambulance. Dolly goes with him. Violet comes back and they're like, "Oh my God, did you hear what happened to the boss? He just had an episode and passed out." And she's like, "Oh, well, I hope he fucking dies." Or I don't know. She's like, she thinks it's funny until she goes into the kitchen and sees the rat poison that's been sitting out on the counter for God knows how long.
And no one else has noticed or needed coffee.
Because
apparently.
it looks just like Skinny and Sweet, guys. Come on.
But did everyone else in the office drink it?
Maybe that's what
I
happened to
don't
the
think
mail
so.
guy. Maybe he
That
came
could.
up, he made
Maybe
some
he did.
coffee, had some rat poison.
Just died.
Lesser known plot line
Eddie
of this movie.
Smith. He had a name. He had a first name
He
and a
did
last
have a
name.
first and a last name.
Eddie Smith. I'm
Very
sorry.
proud of him.
Yes.
So Violet realizes that she put rat poison in the coffee. And she's like, "Oh my God,
I wrote
didn't mean
exactly
to."
those words. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And they
She
rush.
did. I can confirm that.
They rush to the hospital to alert the doctors that he's been poisoned.
Yeah.
And in true comedy fashion,
Wah,
a
wah.
body is wheeled in when he leaves.
Immediately
Yeah.
into the same room. Well, basically, there's a big old mix-up. They think Mr. Hart is gone, but they think
He
that
snuck
he's
out the
died.
back door, the magic back door.
Magic back door of the
from
hospital.
The ER.
All three women are there. They think that he has died, and Violet thinks she's going to be going to prison for this.
First, she wants to turn herself in, and then the other two try to talk her out of it.
I feel like this is all very silly to me.
It was the silliest scene
Very
that I
silly.
watched out of even the fantasy scenes.
It
I
was
like,
it was
this
pretty
is
fucking silly. Where they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And I'm like, "Guys, what is happening right now? Like, what?" Violet just sees them wheeling the body out of the ER room. The guy wheeling around, I don't know, maybe goes to get a coffee. He leaves the body in the hallway.
Leaves it there.
I don't know why he leaves the body there.
And
But
Judy and
no, Violet does this on her own.
I know Judy and Dora Lee have left to go call a lawyer.
No,
on
they're
the
still there.
payphone.
They're like but they're still like in the view.
Right, they're
They
still
they
in
can-
view of her, but they are on the payphone
Yeah.
calling a lawyer for Violet,
Yeah.
whereas Violet is sitting there contemplating whether or not to steal.
Well,
his
she
body.
goes into a closet and finds some doctor's.
That was
Doctor.
later. She starts wheeling the body first.
Oh, you're right.
She just like
decides to
walks down
steal
this
the
hallway.
body.
She just like walks down the hallway, decides to steal the body, and is walking away. And as she's walking there, a bunch of people burst in and need emergency care. And so she just sprints for it and takes the body and starts running
Which,
down the hallway.
At this point, I'm kind of hoping maybe this is going to turn into like a Weekend at Bernie's kind of situation.
Yeah.
No, she just wheels that body right out to the parking lot and puts
And
him in the
then,
trunk.
like, a new
I'm like, girl, what is
hospital-
your plan?
And then
What is your long con here?
She wheels it out to her car, puts it in the trunk, and then Judy and Dora Lee get in the car, even though they know what she just like. I would have been like,
Yeah,
I'm
they
sorry.
see her wheeling the
I'm
body
sorry,
off.
Nicole. Like, I'm not gonna be like a part
Look,
of this.
Look, guys.
Reddit,
You guys are I love you. You guys are important to me. But if you steal a body, I am not with you. Like at that point, I'm gonna be like, man, it's been a long day. Good luck. I'm gonna head home.
I would not get in that car.
Don't call me.
Shout out to my
I
best
was not
friend,
here.
because if you're listening to this, you better get your ass in the passenger seat, and I will also do the same.
Yeah, that's exactly
You are
right.
good
I
for.
know.
I'm
like, Cristo, you better be in that passenger
well, you know,
seat.
Cristo.
Immediately.
Cristo would be like,
know.
he'd be like, I'm already on it. I'm digging a hole.
Yeah,
He's like on this stuff.
exactly.
He's like, I'm way ahead of you. I'm digging a hole
He would
already.
have been like,
See,
Bert
like-
started one earlier today. I'm just gonna finish it. Just come on over.
It's not that I wouldn't want to support you guys no matter what. It's that I don't make friends with people who would do that kind of thing.
Look, you don't know what kind
You
of
don't
friends.
know.
You don't know
You
what's
don't
going to
know.
happen.
You
I
don't
mean,
know.
In
when
the
you think
future-
you accidentally kill a boss, you got to throw them in a trunk sometimes.
I love you guys, but I mean, if you kill somebody, you're on your own.
And also,
Are you sure,
hospital
Nicole?
security
Yeah.
wasn't.
I could
shit.
kill someone for you. What if I did it for you?
Look, if it's a Weekend at Bernie's thing, I'm in,
Okay.
but only in that situation.
Fair.
Now, one of the things I really enjoyed was them discovering that it wasn't him. Like the long, how Dolly
Like
drags
calling
down. She's
you
like,
right back.
Judy, can you come here for a second?
Yeah.
Then, Violet, could you come back here for a second, dude?
She's like, who is that? And she's like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know who that is?
And then they decide to take the body back.
No, they have one blinking
They get
Oh,
pulled
yeah, they
over
get
by the
pulled
cops.
over.
Well, yeah, but yes, they do decide that they're going to take the body back. They're headed
Right,
back
'cause
to the
they're
hospital.
like, they're like, well, fuck that. Let's just take the body. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you gonna roll him out of the
yeah,
car?
no,
I mean, I
Dolly's
don't
like,
know.
I don't
there's
know.
a wheelchair in the front of the hospital. We can put him in. I'm like, and that solves nothing.
Solves the whole problem.
Well, that's their plan. So they're gonna drive back to the hospital, stick the guy on a wheelchair, and I don't know, maybe kick him through the front door and bolt. I don't know. But the cop pulls them over. The dumbest cop in America.
Oh my god, super
Yeah.
dumb.
just so dumb.
Of course, what's going through my mind right now when they're like, "Oh no, pull over," I'm like, "Well, they're white, so it's probably not going to be that bad."
White women. You got Dolly Parton sitting there. All she has to do is unbutton like 2 buttons. Yeah, misogynist. They're into it. They're like, titties. She would have been golden.
Maybe somebody could cry, but that's
I've
not
done
what they
that.
do,
Or
which
say
is what I
period.
like. She actually says she claims to be a doctor. And intimidates him into letting them go.
Yeah.
Which was pretty amazing, I
was
think.
great.
Both of these women have eaten rat poison.
Yeah.
Both of you?
And then
Also,
when
she
he offers
can-
to give an escort, she's like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah,
She's like,
Drives away.
Straight up can say anything when you're a doctor, apparently.
Yeah,
She's like,
apparently.
listen, bucko.
I'm just gonna start
I'm gonna
carrying
take
around
these
a white
women-
coat and
You
a
should.
name tag.
You
with
should.
me.
But even his like,
Kimono
tune change.
at work,
Lab coat
Lab
in the
coat
car.
in the car.
Like his tune changed even, like, cause he was like, "Oh, I didn't see your badge there. I didn't realize you were a doctor. Let me escort you." I'm like, when
Yeah.
has this ever happened?
Yeah, bullshit.
This is Jasmine. This is what it's like for all white people.
Oh, that explains so
I mean,
much. I've never
get
been white.
I get escorts constantly. Police escorts everywhere.
I wish that was the case. I just get tickets all the time.
I mean,
The last time I got a ticket, he didn't even come all the way to my window. He just handed it to me.
See,
from
when-
far
You know,
away.
I'd prefer that to having a conversation. I'm like, look,
no,
you don't
I
need
wanted
to
to
try to
have
make
the
me feel bad about
conversation.
running the stop sign.
gotten
We both know
4
I did it. Just give me the ticket.
I've gotten 4 tickets for speeding it through since I started driving, and all 4 times the cops were like super sweet.
My friend was very surprised on our most recent road trip when I got pulled over for speeding in South Georgia, and the guy did like the turbo cop thing, walk backwards. Like,
What?
he walks backwards away from the car to make sure you're not going to shoot him when he turns around.
What?
my
Yeah,
God.
I've never seen a cop
yeah,
do
it
that.
happens.
Wait.
Because we're white.
I've literally never seen a cop walk backwards from my car.
It happens.
They
It was
always
creepy.
turn and walk
That's
away from
insane.
me.
Yeah, no, they walk backwards and then don't turn until they get to the front of their car. But yeah, he was super.
That's fucking crazy,
super
dude.
rude, and I was just like, okay, great. I was speeding. Could you just go get my ticket?
So after they leave the cop, they are magically back at the hospital.
And the body is back inside.
Yeah, no,
Just magic.
no. They're like, we're just gonna skip the scene where they get the body back. I'm like, okay. At least that's what I thought they were gonna do, until we get to.
Jasmine's favorite part of the movie.
Tell us about it, Jasmine.
Well, of course, naturally, we have janitors at the hospital, and they're black because roles that black women can be cast in.
Yeah.
Maids, angry people. I think that's it.
Okay, so that's list: maids, angry people.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
And silent passerby while someone
like-
poisons her boss.
Yeah, that or like the ghetto best friend. Like I think those
Okay,
are the
all right.
options.
Yeah.
So there's these lovely women, and actually I love that woman. I don't know who she is or whose aunt she is, but I would like to call her
She is.
Aunt Tamra, Aunt Tammy for short. And she discovers this dead body in the bathroom with a sheet over his head.
Opens the door.
Just so quaint. And then she leans back out.
He's
and she's
sitting
like,
in a wheelchair.
"We got another." What is she?
She doesn't even lean back out. She like fully walks outside and then goes back to
She
sleeping.
looked
It's like,
with the bored
"There's
look on
another
her face."
stiff in the bathroom.
She says, we've got another stiff in the John."
Yeah, she says John.
God, that was
And
great.
I love that she wasn't
Hashtag stiff in the
unnecessarily cranky. I felt her minor crankiness was necessary because it's like
She's like,
I don't
oh
get
god,
paid enough
another
for
one.
this.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I loved her face when she saw the body. She was just like, you can't see my face, but she was like,
she's given duck lips and the shaky head, which is accurate.
Duck lips and shaky head.
She was my favorite person. I like to call her unidentified nurse number 2.
Yep. Oscar
She was wonderful.
Oscar worthy performance.
Third black person in the movie. She's amazing. I think she got 2
Which I
Oscars.
feel like is a high black people
It's a
count
high
for a
number.
1980s movie.
especially with lines. I mean,
Right?
we've given 3 black people lines. I,
mean,
did
this
not
is-
expect it. I was
feel
super
like-
happy.
Yeah. So at this point, they know that he hasn't been poisoned, or they
he
think he.
shows up to work the next day.
Yeah, they think he hasn't been poisoned. They're hiding out in the bathroom. They're like, well, I guess he didn't drink the coffee. They're kind of confused, but they're basically talking through the whole thing. I don't know why they would do this at work, but they're talking through the whole thing. The missing body,
They said
the
they
cop
checked
pulling
under
them
the
over.
stall doors. There were no
Right.
feet under the stall.
No feet under the stall doors. They
This
checked.
is the time when we see that Roz has lifted her feet.
But they talk about the whole thing, which I'm like, why are you talking about this at work? Did you not talk about this all night last night? Like, you were in a car all night. Like, why are you even talking
Well,
about
because
this at
they
work?
just saw him.
Oh,
for
right,
the
because
first
he
time.
shows up. Okay, all right. That makes
but
that's
Roz is
acceptable.
such a skip because she's writing notes on toilet paper.
Toilet
oh,
paper.
I didn't see that.
Yes. She's taking
I
notes
thought
on their
she
whole
hadn't known
conversation.
that.
No.
No.
She's like unraveling the toilet paper
like,
and
even
taking
when
notes.
She hands it to him. She's like, "I'm sorry, my notes got a little fuzzy." And I was like, "Yeah."
But she
did
typed
not
it up
notice
by the
that at
time she gave it to
all.
him. I'm kind of surprised that he believes her because it sounds really loony,
Yeah.
you know? He then decides to use this to his advantage.
Yep.
And he brings Dolly Parton. This is absolutely disgusting. He
It was.
brings her into his office, accuses them of trying to kill him, to try to blackmail her into sleeping with him.
Yeah. And
Yes.
says, if you come over to my house tonight, I'll forget all about it. Gross.
Like the only option is to sleep with her. Like my wife's out of town. Come over. It was so skippy.
And here's where I feel bad about myself, because I'm thinking, like, what is she going to do? Like, is she going to like pretend to go over? Like, I didn't, at no point did I think what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
I was thinking she was going to not necessarily go along with it, but try to go along with it just to prevent, because he says, I'm going to call the cops if you don't go out with me or sleep with me or whatever.
I thought she was going to.
I did too.
Do it.
She does not.
She does not.
No.
Nope.
She is like, fuck you. You're disgusting. You are,
doesn't she say like
you are evil. She
misogynist
says
or
you're
something?
evil.
Yeah.
She calls him a misogynist. She calls him evil. She says, I don't like to say this about humans, but you are evil.
Yeah.
To the core.
I enjoyed that she didn't even consider it.
No,
Yeah.
did not.
Because
not even a second.
I'm not going to lie to you. If I was in the same situation, like even though he's disgusting, considering jail time, I might have had to consider it. But the fact that she didn't consider it, loved it.
So here's where we get the second we get Dolly's fantasy moment where she actually ties him up, because he keeps trying to use the phone. She keeps pulling the phone cord out of the wall. She uses the phone cord to like hog tie him, and then
she
stuffs
gags him with the scarf.
Mm-hmm. So again, we're dropping a prop in that's from earlier in the movie, and we are now using it. She leaves him in there and basically is like, I don't know what we're gonna do with you, but we're gonna figure something out. They leave Judy in charge of him. I'm not really sure why.
Bad idea.
She seems unqualified for that.
Well, no, she wasn't in charge. She had just walked into the office.
Okay.
And he was like, please help me. And
I thought she said go in there and watch him.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I've got to
yeah.
get
probably
Violet.
happened.
I've got to get
stand
Violet. You
there
stay and watch him. Yeah.
That
I would have
makes
sent Judy to get Violet, frankly.
Yeah, I would have sent Judy.
Judy is
and
not
Roz
really up for
comes
this
and
job.
stands outside his door to like talk to him or something, and
Like get rid of him.
she's- yeah.
Get rid of her, yeah.
Well, anyway, he convinces Judy to she's like, okay, well, I'll loosen it. It looks painful. So he gets himself untied and tries to get away. And he's like got her up against the desk. He's threatening her. And she notices Dolly's purse, and she's got her hand on it and remembers the gun. And so again, this is the fantasy coming to life again, pulls the gun on him and shoots out the same window we see her shoot out in the fantasy.
Which was pretty great.
Yeah.
which stops him. He's like, "Oh shit! I didn't think you'd shoot me."
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because he goes to walk away when he's like, you're not going to shoot me. And then she closes her eyes and shoots.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
So that escalated quickly.
They bring him back to his house, his massive house.
Right.
Well,
where's
first
Violet
Violet
conveniently
and
out of town.
like Dorley are like, what the hell?
Like, what the fuck? You just shot out this office window.
Yeah, she's like, you took this to another level.
But they take him home.
And they've got him
and they
tied
tie
up.
him up.
He's got the gag in his mouth.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what can they get against him. Rather than try to lay out this long, because I felt like it was kind of convoluted. Basically, he's been taking the goods that he's supposedly supposed to be holding on to in this warehouse, and he's sold them and pocketed the money.
Yeah.
So he's embezzling money from the company.
And she does the villain thing. I mean, even though she's not a villain, and like divulges her entire plan to him. Like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
And they tie him to a bed like Exorcist style, like with same pajamas and everything. He's like Linda Blaired up to the bed.
They say they need to find a better way to confine him, so they go shopping at this sexual.
I actually-
I thought it was like a camp.
I thought it was a
bondage
camping
supply.
store.
I thought it was sports gear.
I thought that
Is
was
it?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, dude. I think that was
Because there
like
was
a
a skydiving
parasailing.
guy. Yeah.
But that stuff looks so like BDSM.
Well, that's because they put dog collars on him.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
the
like added
not this.
chains.
He's like wearing ski pants, a harness, and dog collars.
Like, I
He's
think it was
attached
like
to a
chain
garage door
thing.
opener.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, that's a garage door opener.
Oh,
She
Yeah.
because
revamped
we've
her
already
garage
set
door.
up that she can put together a garage door opener.
Yeah.
So they create this contraption that allows him to move about his bedroom and bathroom, but no further. There's a little surprise that we'll find out that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're now, of
Did a
course,
lot
they've
of things.
kidnapped him and they're
Did a
holding him
lot of
hostage at his own house. It's gone pretty far at this point.
And he tells them that he'll be missed at the office, but then they figure out a way to have him not be
The
missed.
only person who wants to see him is Roz.
Yeah, nobody else has
Roz is a
any
psycho.
interest.
We'll just send her away to a foreign language class. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So I was starting to lose interest at this point because it was getting a little out there for me. But then what happened next I thought was very exciting. They begin running the office without him.
Yep.
So they have to get rid of Roz because she keeps asking. So they
Because
send her.
Roz is a dry snitch.
She's
hate her.
dry
She's
snitching
such a dry snitch.
everywhere.
Left and right. I hate her.
So they send that snitch on a trip to France
Yeah.
for what basically they thought they were going to get. They need some invoices to prove that he's embezzling money. They thought they were going to be able to get them,
But the company just
Quickly.
switched over to the computer system.
We won't be able to get it for
can't.
4 to 6 weeks.
which is like Jesus Christ, a life with paper,
Yeah.
paper
That's my
trails.
everyday
Ugh.
life.
So at one point he tries to attack Dolly, but they have this thing in place where she's got like this garage door opener that she can
It
hit,
just
and
sucks
he
him
will
up.
get like he's on this like suspension pulley system that will pull him up to the ceiling and suspend him from the ceiling if they press that button, which is very funny. So
But they open a daycare center, and
well, we're not even there yet
we're
because
not?
we don't know all the things that they do. But basically, they
There's a
begin making
montage.
changes to
Yeah,
the
there's a
office
montage
while
with
he's
memos.
gone.
There's montages of what they do.
So they allow decorations and pictures on desks.
They let people
They
paint
hire
the
the
lockers.
Hispanic chick back.
They
They add some color
they
to the
added
office so it's not so
a
drab.
Daycare center, part-time hours, new salary policy. We see these memos that they've signed his name.
Yeah, which again is another thing that they set up earlier in the film where Dolly meant he's like, when he's trying to get her to sleep with him, he's like, I can give you anything you want. I'll just write a check for any amount you want. And she's like, honey, I don't need you to write me a check. I'm better at writing your signature than you are.
Yeah.
So she knows how to forge his signature.
Which I would have been writing my own damn checks for so many months.
So they're like revamping the whole office in a very dramatic way without him and sending out memos to people, forging his signature.
We also see like a weird man taking notes and
His friend. It's the other white guy.
Dude. Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
if you've ever seen
He's
Willy
from-
Wonka, it reminds you of Slugworth whenever he's walking around
Slugworth.
whispering
Yeah.
to children.
Yeah, he's like taking note of all. He does not like it. He doesn't like the changes. So then, they're all at work, and Frank's there. They're nearing the point where the invoices are supposed to come in, and this
Roz
whole
will be
thing is
back on
almost
Friday.
over. Yeah.
Invoices will be there Friday morning.
But Frank's wife comes back early from the cruise.
Which
Just
what
in a la-di-da
crew
fashion.
gets back, or what cruise gets back early?
Because
good
she
question.
just wanted to be back early.
She was just like, I demand
Turn
you
this
take
boat around."
ship back to America and land me 3 days early.
She rode a humpback whale.
She just like strapped some sea turtles
and
together.
She
Rode them
walks.
back in.
She walks upstairs and sees Mr. Hart all chained up, and she thinks it was his idea.
Well, I think that's what he tells her.
Yeah, and then we cut
and
away.
sends her to a hotel.
We cut away to see her calling Dora Lee, and she thanks her for the flowers. And this is the moment when I think she's gonna be like, I know what's been
That's what I
going
thought
on.
I know,
too.
me too. This was her
And-
moment to
And
be
it never
to have a
happened.
brain, and she's like, I don't know what's going on, but he's doing this amazing new workout
was the
routine.
most-
You can't imagine what he's done to the bedroom. And I'm like, seriously? Are you a real person? I don't
Oh,
even know what's
God.
It was
happening
the
right
most
now.
confusing moment of the entire movie to me because I was like,
Yeah.
why was this necessary? Other than
Why is that
showing Dora
character
Lee and
even-
them that like
What is
he
wrong with
was
this
getting
character?
out.
Look,
And
I
he'd
don't
been out
understand,
for
frankly,
days.
why his wife is in this movie at all. I mean,
No.
you could have just had the mailman or the gardener find him, for
Is it
God's
because
sakes,
it
or
raises
the maid,
the
who
stakes
knows?
slightly that
No, it
she
just
could
says
come
not.
back?
It doesn't seem to, because she doesn't.
She doesn't.
She's not
care.
on to
She's
anything.
not affected.
No.
oblivious.
Yeah, I don't really know
I mean, it
what her
honestly
purpose
could have
is.
been the housekeeper comes every
Exactly.
first Tuesday of the month, you
Yeah.
know, and the housekeeper decided to come the first Sunday
Oh,
of the month.
they can
instead,
definitely
you know,
afford
like,
weekly cleaning.
Yeah.
It could, yeah,
But
like
maybe
I
she
mean,
was on
this for a
vacay.
week, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, fidgeting.
Dolly immediately calls everybody else because now she realizes that the wife is back, and that means Frank is free.
And she says she's been back for 3 days.
So he's
she
been
knows
free
that he's
for
been
3
free for
days.
3 days, yeah.
And put her in a hotel for some reason. So,
Whatever reason.
Which also made no sense.
right, I don't really understand why, but
Oh, he loves me so much. He sent me away.
to a crappy hotel, by
when
the
she
way.
called
That was
from
like
the
a Howard
hotel.
Johnson's or some
Yeah.
shit. So then Judy goes to go check on him. He's
No, Dora Lee goes to check on him, and he's holding Judy up with a
Yeah,
gun.
Dora Lee
Right.
calls Judy first
Judy.
and says, "Get my gun." He's doing something weird.
Right.
Judy goes to check on him because she's the one at the house with him.
Judy says, I'm already here,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's fine. And then we see in the next
Oh,
scene
yeah.
that he's holding Judy by gunpoint.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of clear, like, oh, he was standing right behind Judy on the phone saying, say this and get Dora
No,
Lee
I
over
think
here.
what happened is she
what I-
probably
I think she went to go check on him and he had the gun.
I think that he was pretending like I got the sense that he was pretending.
Me too.
And then-
I got the sense that he was standing
Pretending
there with a
what?
gun and saying like,
I don't
her-
think she
tell
would
her
have.
The
everything's
only reason I
fine.
didn't think that is because, like, Judy says, okay, I'm going to go find your gun. And then when Dora Lee gets there, she's like, found your gun.
Yeah,
And it's in his hand.
I
So I
think
think she,
yeah.
like, went back upstairs to
Oh, I
check
thought
on
she
him
said
again.
he found your gun.
No, she's like, found your gun.
Oh.
It's
yeah,
supposed to be
I
like
think
a
he. I mean, it's kind of a long way around, but it seems like he was pretending like he was still tied up and then ambushed her. It seems like that's what
Okay.
happened.
Okay.
Let me see the-
It's confusing.
Let me see them all go to the office.
Well, not
Well, he
not
still has a
Violet
gun.
yet. He takes Judy
Dora Lee
and
and
Dora
Ju-
Lee
Ju-
by
Ju-
gunpoint back to the office,
which is interesting because it's an office.
why I don't know, but
Are they still at gunpoint though? I don't see it.
No,
the
he
gun
has-
he's
he
anymore.
got
had
the
the
gun.
gun.
He's got the gun.
behind them.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then as soon as he gets there, he realizes that they've made a lot of changes. So I feel like we really see
The office
the
for
whole
what it is
picture.
now.
Yeah,
we see it
for-
now
of what it
like-
is.
Bright
And how do we know
colors.
that? Because Hillary's favorite character pops up
Yeah.
looking
She's
completely
sober
different.
now.
Oh yeah,
And, like,
Margaret
Margaret
is no
is
longer
like,
drunk.
"Thank you
Margaret.
so much, like because of the alcoholics program you initiated. Like I'm sober now and like feeling great.
I mean, her hair was like a
She
different
looked
color.
like she was
Yeah.
like she had this like Mad Men thing going on. She had
Yeah.
like this swanky outfit and like
like-
the bouffanty hair. And at some point, Lily Tomlin joins them. I can't remember how that happens. She's wearing an amazing red like power suit jumper, lady pantsuit that would make Hillary Clinton proud.
to show that she's transitioned from wearing a skirt to pants.
Yeah. Well,
She's a big
all
deal.
three of them are dressed like Dolly's wearing white, she's wearing red, and Jane Fonda's wearing a blue
I
outfit.
didn't even notice. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and what does he say to them while they're in there?
I'm gonna send you 3 bitches to jail.
Yeah. So he's threatening them. He says he's going to call the cops immediately. And then just as that's about to happen, the big boss, the chairman of the board, who nobody ever
That looks
sees.
like Colonel motherfucking Sanders.
Tinsworthy. I wrote
Right?
that
I
too.
was like, I expected him to, pull out a bucket of chicken and just start. I was like, what?
Sir.
And then her heart pleads to Violet to stand by him. Like he's just told her, like, I'm gonna send you bitches to jail.
Well,
And he's like,
what
"Stand by
happens
me."
is, and I was already ahead of the movie at this point. Like I saw this is where it was going. So they've made all these changes. The chairman of the board shows up to congratulate Frank on all the the productivity has increased. The work environment has become, there's fewer absences. Employees are reporting to work and they're happy with their job and all of that. And so he's come to congratulate Frank on his innovative management style. And as he begins asking him about all the changes he's implemented, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So he passes it off to Violet and is like, Violet's like my right hand around here. Like I couldn't do anything without her. And he's suddenly praising her. And now I'm glad that she gets credit, but what I would have rather seen was him trying to bumble his way through explaining it and then have Violet be like, well, actually, that was my idea. Like, I wanted her to take ownership of
Yeah.
it.
I
I can see why.
I was definitely frustrated with the way everything kind of started coming together at that point because I did want it to be very clear that he did none of that.
Yeah.
But he still got credit for it in the end.
He
and
did,
that
yeah.
frustrated me.
But I guess that's real, though.
Yeah, it is
Right?
real. I mean, like even
But
still,
none of the
like,
rest of this
even
movie's
when
been
all of
real.
That happens.
It's
Like
true.
you still can't be the woman who's like, yeah, well, that was my idea, and that's why he can't talk about it. Like you still can't be that person.
Well,
Yeah,
so
I agree,
they
but I
need
didn't
they
know
need
what
him
gender
to
you are.
need them.
Yeah.
Right.
But I
So that he doesn't send them to jail.
It to be like somehow like either the Colonel Sanders dude realized that it wasn't him or that he like ended up like bumbling so hard that it was realized by the higher ups like you're not in charge of this without Violet having to say it.
That would have been satisfying, but I don't know that that's realistic. And although
It's
the movie
not.
has been really over the top, they have been pretty realistic in terms with the way women are put into a certain corner in the workplace. So they stayed true to that, and they didn't let her get credit for her ideas.
Something that I half thought was funny and half absolutely hated was when Tinsworthy was like, everything is great except that equal pay thing has to go.
Well,
I
here,
thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Personally. I thought that was a very funny joke. I wrote it down because I thought
so
it was
before we get
hilarious.
there, so he asked them about this daycare center that they've put in.
Yeah.
So they put in a daycare center so that people can drop off their children. He takes them there. This is when we run into Margaret. and see that she's gotten sober.
And that Frank apparently sent her letters of encouragement.
Yeah.
Right,
Don't
which
forget
were
through.
written,
Which is Dolly.
obviously written by Dolly. And then, and as Sarah mentioned, the one thing that he's bothered by is like, I really love all these changes except for that equal pay thing. It's okay to do that to get morale up, but we got to put a stop to that.
Can we note that the
I just thought
daycare
that
was
was
hilarious?
definitely meant to be a joke, though.
That's fair.
That's the reason why I didn't have an issue with that line, was because I felt like it was meant to be a joke.
Not with him, but in the film it was
no,
meant to
in
be
the,
a joke.
in the film. Yeah. Like,
I don't think it was meant to be a joke.
Oh, I do. I think it was meant to be like that equal pay thing. We got to get rid of that.
I'll tell you why I don't think it was a
felt
joke.
like it was a nod. I liked it.
I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I actually think the movie was really brave for doing it. Like I think it was meant to be kind of taken as a joke, but it's a joke with truth.
Oh, for sure.
Because
like, I'm not saying it's not.
this
but I
this
still
is a
think it was
time
joke, and I
period
thought
where
it was funny.
working women would have remembered the Equal Rights Act
Yeah.
not passing.
Yeah.
And we end with this, basically. We're not quite there yet, but we end with this idea, which is that, everybody laugh about how the women ended up coming out on top, but here's the bitter pill. They still don't get equal pay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually I give the movie credit for being like, well, we tied it all up in a bow, but that bow is still lacking with true equality.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's a funny moment.
But that's what I thought was so funny about it, was that it was like sort of a nod to like, hey, like women still aren't paid equally. And like, I
Right.
thought it was a good moment of like conscious humor.
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
like, she doesn't end up getting the credit where her credit is due for
Right.
all of the things
Yeah,
that
it
she's
was.
done.
It was. I definitely. I recognized it as a joke, but it was like, it was like a
And I
punch to the
wonder-
gut for me.
Yeah, I wonder if it would have been funnier then or less funny, because it's so close to the Equal Rights Amendment not passing. Like, how would working women have felt about that? It would be like, oh yeah, you know what I
I
mean?
think
Yeah.
that, but like I literally laughed out loud at it because I thought it was so
I mean-
funny. But just because like this,
But
whole
women
movie has been
still
so
aren't paid
much
equally.
about
This
it.
was made in 1980, and in 2016,
No, like,
women
I
are
mean, I
still
don't
not
think
paid
that
equally.
not
No.
having
She-
equal
yeah, I don't
pay
think
is funny.
Sarah's-
Like, I'm
yeah,
not
I don't
saying
think
that, but,
Sarah's
like,
saying that.
I do think that like this moment of like nodding to, hey, we can have a daycare center. Yeah, we can hire a bunch of women, but we still can't pay them as much.
Yeah, I
as a
guess
man.
you have to laugh so you
I
don't
still-
cry.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like I think it was a laugh so you don't cry.
I mean, it's
kind of moment.
definitely
Totally.
the same thing with me, like laughing about things that, like in slavery. It's not
Yeah.
because it's funny. God, it's
Yeah, no,
awful.
no,
Like, I
no.
have to
But
fucking laugh about
you
it.
got to get through it somehow.
Yeah.
So we didn't really cover this, but he's so impressed with Frank that he promotes him to Brazil, which, by the way, would not be a terrible place to live. Okay, he's
not,
being
but if
sent
you
to
look at the-
paradise.
It ends
typewriter.
on the most
I know, we'll get there.
racist, like.
I know. Let's not get there yet. But
He says, like, what am I going to live in the jungle? And I'm like,
Yeah.
the jungle? Like,
Yeah.
Brazil is
Look,
not.
my friend went to Brazil last summer for like 8 days. It looked like fucking paradise,
Right?
especially if you're like a rich fucking fucker like that guy. Like, you would be living high off the hog.
I do
So,
think it's
and they
hilarious.
mentioned the equal pay thing again at the end. They're like, well, the next thing we got to work on is this equal pay thing.
Yeah.
But they say it in a way that it's like, I almost feel like the reason that what they're saying is not just like amongst the three of us. They're like, it's almost like they're saying to the audience, like, well, we've made a lot of progress here, but we still need to deal with this equal pay thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get one of my favorite devices in film, where we go to the credits and we freeze frame on a character.
I love it.
So
And
many
get-
things that I hate it.
And I'm not
God,
joking. I actually love this. When you freeze frame on a
this.
character.
Oh, I love the
I love it.
device.
It's so
Insane.
funny.
I like the device. I hated what the thing said.
Well,
Two
okay.
out of 4 of the
I
things
do not
upset
like
me.
either
Yeah,
of those.
I agree.
All of it. I hate this device, and I hate what they said.
Okay. So what did they say about Violet?
Violet Newstead was promoted to VP in recognition of her ability to remain calm in a crisis.
Which I liked.
But why?
That she
why
becomes
was she promoted,
VP.
She promoted to VP in recognition. Like she never has been calm in a crisis in this movie.
I
and
think
yet,
that was a joke.
of course, there was a joke, but I didn't like it.
See,
I
I
didn't
liked it
mind that
because
one.
she got what she wanted. I was
Yeah.
happy because she got to be she obviously went on to run that office.
Yeah.
But I
which
wanted
was
it to be
exciting to me.
because she made all those changes and she's smart and she.
But
did
that's
these
not
things.
this kind of
those
movie.
Changes according to the boss.
I know,
But
but
that's
I
not this
wanted
kind of movie.
I wanted it to be that way.
Yeah, that one.
I know,
didn't-
but
that
that's
one-
not this
yeah,
movie.
that one
That's not
didn't
the
get
movie
me.
we're watching.
That's
I don't
also
care,
true.
Nicole.
That one actually, I was
That
like,
one is
Yay!
fine. The next one is
get to
I had a
Judy,
problem
'cause it
with.
pissed me
Judy,
off.
I had a problem with.
pissed
What
me off.
happened? Okay, so what's Judy's epilogue?
Judy Burnley fell in love and married the Xerox representative.
Why?
Which again was supposed to be a joke, I get, but I'm like, why? Like this was not a movie.
It's so lame.
Well, that's exactly. Look what I wrote in parentheses.
Yeah.
Lame.
It was
That
the
was
dumbest
just-
joke that ever happened
Yeah.
because, like, at no point
That was
does
not
she
her
even
arc.
fight for
No.
love.
Yeah.
So why did we give her?
Because we
She
got to
fell
give her
in love.
something.
Divorced.
Because she's a woman and women have to be married. I was so cranky. I was like, did we really just type this?
Uh-oh. Jasmine turned into the cranky black woman.
I
Look
did.
at this.
I did. I just turned into a cranky black. I just cast myself.
Oh man. Oh no.
At the end,
This
that's not even
podcast
be
is
it.
falling victim to racial stereotyping. Yeah, no, I did not like Judy's epilogue. I was that was a big fuck you. Dorley.
is very meta. Dorley Rhodes quit Consolidated and became a country and western.
I love it.
I mean, I was fine with that, but I would have been happier if the three of them became boss bitches running that fucking place.
I thought that was
That's
lame
what I
too.
wanted.
I thought that was very lame.
It was
like
it was a
But it was
cop-out,
a
like,
meta
it's just
joke.
Dolly Parton.
They were
Yeah.
like, we don't really know what to give her. She defeated sexual harassment, I guess. So now she gets to be a country singer.
I just feel like that's something like Dolly Parton was like, yeah, just make her a country singer.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's
Yeah.
just like the
Just
inside
like they were
joke, you know?
also-
Like the same if this movie was remade with Chelsea Handler, they would be like, make her a drunk TV show host.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's
true.
like,
Good point.
It's who
Good
you
point.
are, and like I think it
point.
was sort of like a nod to like her.
Yeah,
I
that one
respected
did
that
not
one.
bother me. Again, like it would have been satisfying to me if the three of them like started running the place, but that's
Oh,
not what
for
they did.
sure.
Okay. Now here comes the real kicker. We get an epilogue for Frank.
Franklin Hart was abducted by a tribe of Amazons in the Brazilian jungle and was never heard from again.
When?
I wish that everyone listening to this podcast could see Jasmine's face right now.
Amazons?
When do you go to Brazil and ever worry about Amazonian people abducting you?
What are
when?
Amazons?
Where are you going?
Are they? I've always thought those were like mythical, like beings. Like
no, I mean there are people who still live in
Yes,
in
but
tribal
when I think
situations,
about-
but they're not kidnapping white people and like
They're
raping
also
and murdering them in the
yeah,
woods.
they're also not like as tribal
Well,
as
that's
we
dark.
think
they just
are.
said that he never was seen again.
right, but that's not.
It's really
what's
fucking dark,
happening.
Hillary.
Oh my god!
That's what I assumed they meant.
Raping
I
and
was so-
killing, obviously.
When we got to the end of that movie and they typed his thing, like, so my lovely white fiance was laying next to me, which always makes it hard for me to live my life. And I just looked at him like, I know a white person wrote this shit.
This is your fault.
Yeah.
A white person put this up here and said, you know what? If he went to
really funny.
Brazil in the 1980s, he would be abducted by Amazons. I was like, where did they get this information?
Yeah, it was,
Nobody did research.
It's not
And, like-
culturally sensitive, that's
like
for
I
sure.
wish that he was never heard from again, but I wish it was for something else.
Like, for harassment.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
Went hiking up to go see the giant Jesus in Rio de Janeiro,
And he fell off the cliff.
and died.
Something more accurate.
I'd like to see him die of penis rot.
I like that one.
I think that would have been a satisfactory ending to me.
Or like, oh, he tried to sexually harass a woman in Brazil and she shot him.
Shot his dick off.
I would have loved that.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
You're right.
Amazons.
There were better ways to end this movie.
So
why
that's
couldn't
the-
it have been a woman
That's
exactly for revenge?
that's what we're left with. Final thoughts.
I thought this movie was amazing. I thought it was super funny. I love these three actresses. I would watch this movie again. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it
Agreed.
was very funny.
Definitely.
Yeah, I thought this movie was very entertaining. I mean, like my first thoughts were like, this is perfect for our podcast because it's feminist while still being sexist and like
Yeah.
it's fun and silly and crazy. But it's not a movie that I would say is my type of film.
Although 9 to 5 the musical. That'd be right
I
up your
have not
alley.
seen that. I don't know.
Jasmine?
Yeah, I would say that I expected it to be worse than it was. I didn't anticipate like the feminism to fall short, and I expected to not see many Black people, which I didn't. Definitely not a movie I'd go out of my way to watch again because and I don't think it's because of like the through line, but I think it's because they ended me on a note that I was like, you guys, way to like ruin the feminism.
You could always pull a How I Met Your Mother and just not watch the ending.
Yeah.
I recommend, if you have not seen it, it's a real gem. And
It really is. I liked it.
It's a real gem, and it surprised me. And if you haven't seen it, dear listener, check it out.
I'm so excited! I'm so scared!
Welcome to Nervous Breakdowns. This is the part of the show where we read horrifying misogynistic casting breakdowns.
Can we each
Jasmine
read
looks
one of
so
them? There are
excited
like
about it right
I
now.
think we can. I have a real doozy for us today.
Yeah, a real gem.
I mean, I don't want to set you up or anything. I don't want to set the expectations too high, but I will say that it took me about 5 minutes of searching through the casting breakdowns that I get sent in my email. This was literally the second one I opened in my email.
I will also add that
very
Nicole does not ever send us them in advance.
I don't. I
really.
usually look them up the day of.
And she just lets us read them live, and this one was so bad that she sent it to us.
It's
to
true.
read
Yeah,
in
I was
advance.
like, you guys have to see this one that we're reading tonight.
Epic.
I've never heard it before. I'm so excited.
Well, we'll let you read the first. We'll let you read the first character. So, what we've got here, and again, we're not going to out the film. We're not going to out where this came from. I would like to say that this does come from a reputable casting source.
Yeah.
So basically, the top part is, I'm just going to pass this. Just read that first character name and description.
All right. The character name is Natalie. She's 18 to 28 years old, Caucasian female, youthful, nubile, captivating, and sensual. Exquisitely beautiful, young woman with an amazing face and body. She should look European, French, Spanish, Italian, Eastern European, or Russian.
It's a lot of ethnicity.
A lot of ways to say white.
And preferably speak a foreign language. She is a
Cellist.
cellist. That's
Yep.
how you spell cellist. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
I went to college once. She's a
It's okay.
cellist in
Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure
itinerant
about
string
that.
quartet. Not necessarily to actually play, but we'll be miming playing the cello.
So you got a mime playing.
A young Bridget Bardot, Gigi and Bella Hadid is her last name? Hadid. I was like, I'm gonna be close.
They're super
Scarlett
models.
Johansson, love her. Leah Seydoux, French.
Oh, okay.
Miranda Kerr, Eva Green, Candace Swainpole types.
Can I also just say that none of those women look alike?
No, they don't.
Not one.
That
No.
does not a sense. But they
they're
are
all
European,
white.
Spanish, Czechoslovakian,
White women.
German.
I've never heard
I don't know.
Scarlett
Very
Johansson
attractive
speak a
white
foreign language
women.
ever.
No, I've heard her speaking that horrible
anytime
New
you're
Jersey accent.
look,
she
anytime
has,
you
though.
put nubile in a
so
casting breakdown,
Love her.
my hackles go up.
Yes.
If you put nubile in your casting breakdown,
It just
Yes.
immediately
Immediate
screams
hackles for
porno
me.
to me as soon as I hear the word nubile. like it's like, oh, is this a porn?
all right.
Don't
So
worry,
there's
I'm not
more
gonna play the
characters.
cello.
Let's move on to the next one.
Valerie,
This is the same breakdown, by the way, same film.
28 to 40 years old, Caucasian female, a foreign violinist, unusual or Fellini-esque
Yeah, it's
face.
Fellini-esque, yeah.
Sorry, Fellini.
Federico Fellini.
Fellini-esque face, unappetizing, lean body,
This movie's about cannibals, guys.
Jesus Christ, unappetizing.
married to Max. She is a scandalous nag, not unlike Mia Farrow's character in Broadway Danny Rose. Please notate if talent speaks a foreign language and or if they play the violin or viola, not necessary to actually play, just mime.
Scandalous
nag. Unappetizing lean body.
I think I have a rather feline face.
It's Fellini. The film director, Federico Fellini. Yeah.
Fellini-esque, not feline.
Feline-esque, and I was like, I look like Grumpy Cat. I was like, why do they have to be feline?
If you're looking for
When you sent this today, I thought it said
if you're looking for an
Feline-esque.
unappetizing nag who has a grumpy cat face.
Grumpy cat face. That's
I'm
me.
putting my headshot in this email right now.
I'm there.
It's but an unappetizing lean body. Like you're thin, but you're unappetizing.
Yeah.
Like
You're-
fuck you.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
So should I read
Sarah's
the male
angry about
character,
this.
or
You should
I-
see her face. She looks like she wants to fight someone right now. So the third character is
Should
Max.
I read the male character or should I read the storyline? You want to read the storyline?
I would
That's
love to read the
best part of
storyline. So
it.
there's a male
Okay.
character there at the bottom,
male
right?
character
Yeah.
is Max, 28 to 40 years old, Caucasian male, a foreign violinist, married to Valerie, unusual or Fellini-esque face.
Not feline.
Yeah, I still thought it was feline. And I was like, whatever. That's what I look like. A neurotic narcissist, not unlike Woody Allen in Broadway Danny Rose. Please notate if talent speaks a foreign language and or if they play the violin or viola, not necessarily to actually
Okay,
play.
how
was
come
his
mine.
shorter?
Oh, it was about a third the length
Oh,
of
so
the
we're
other
not
women.
concerned about his body type?
Oh
No.
no, he just is like Woody
He
Allen.
has characteristics.
But have you noticed how
personality
two of those
characteristics?
characters are from Broadway Danny Rose? Like, are we remaking Broadway Danny Rose? Like, what?
Also,
Yeah, I guess so.
this filmmaker must think very highly of himself. He thinks he's gonna get like Bella Hadid and Woody Allen in his film.
Scarlett Johansson, ScarJo,
I love ScarJo.
Bridget Bardot.
She just makes weird decisions, but I love her.
Okay, so they put the storyline at the bottom. Okay, and I'm not going to name the film. It's a self-described art house comedy about Natalie, a foreign cellist who comes to Texas in search of a better life. So, okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. Here we
Like
go.
you do when you're a cellist.
Go to Texas to search for a better life.
Natalie is extremely beautiful,
What we didn't
though
get that from
only
the description.
modestly talented
Oh, Jesus.
and not very dedicated.
Oh, my God.
The one thing she feels strongly about is comfort. In pursuit of comfort, she commits a series of petty betrayals, starting with her fellow musicians, then her husband, and finally her instrument and her calling as a musician.
This sounds like the most depressing comedy ever.
I want to.
A woman who pursues comfort over all other. I don't see that being.
She's
Bella
extremely
Hadid.
beautiful, but not very talented, Hillary.
Based on this casting call, this does not pass the Blackdoll test.
So there you have it, folks. If there's a girl out there dreaming of a career in film, you too
And you look like Grumpy Cat.
can take your feline-esque face and send your headshots to be part of this Broadway Danny Rose remake. Welcome to Plug It Up. So this is the part of the podcast where we talk about things that we're up to and things that our guests are up to so that you can check out all the cool stuff that they're in and they're a part of. Jasmine, would you like to go first?
Sure. One thing that I am super excited about that will be coming out in the next couple of months is A Light from the Past. It's a YouTube web series from It Happened on a Wednesday Productions. And I will be several different historical figures, such as
cool.
Harriet Tubman.
Wow. Is this is a historical or is it comedic?
It is loosely historically based,
Okay.
but it's very comedical. Comedic.
awesome.
Sorry. Comedical. I will also portray Hitler in the second season, so get ready for it. There are no rules.
Hillary, what would you like to plug?
Well, I've been telling you guys all about PYT's web show. PYT's web show. And that's finally coming out starting November 1st, a Tuesday. So that would
So
have been
it'll
this
have-
past
yeah.
Tuesday. So there's already an episode up online that you guys can go watch.
Go watch it.
I'm really passionate about it. I wrote it. It's awesome.
And
really
directed
funny.
it.
And I directed it. And yeah, go watch it. Enjoy. There will be new episodes each week. Check it out
On the Vimeo channel.
on our Vimeo channel, vimeo.com/criticalcroptop.
Indeed. All right. I have two things that I'd like to plug. One is the Critical Crop Top Live sketch show. We did one as of this podcast.
That's sold out.
It was sold out, you guys. Our guest Jasmine is in the show. The three of us are all in the show. We all wrote sketches and directed sketches that are in the show. We've got a really great cast. We've got spoken word poetry. We've got improvised musical act. It was a blast.
It was really fucking fun.
And we've got one more show. And at the time that this will be being released, it will be Saturday. of the week that this is released. So that's
November 12th.
Saturday, November 12th, 8 p.m. at the Village Theater. If you buy your tickets in advance, and I suggest you do because we sold out before the show last time.
Yeah.
They're $5 online before the show. They're $10 at the door, and you can get your tickets at criticalcroptop.com/shows. There'll be a link there. So get your tickets, come see us. Be good times.
It's amazing. Don't miss out.
It was
Quite
a really
amazing.
great show.
The other thing that I would like to plug that is also on our Vimeo channel is 80s Dating Video Remix. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. Sarah, Hillary, and I are all in it. And Jasmine did the hair and makeup for us on that show.
Made us look like dudes.
It was a super fun day.
All
It
look
was.
like our dads.
Yes.
Yeah, we really
Yes.
do.
It's really weird.
It's a really surprising window into what could have been.
I mean, that
That's
video
accurate.
has everything. Working
That's accurate.
out.
It
some
does.
Collections.
It really does.
Disliking smoking.
Sweet tea.
Sweet tea,
Go
cats.
see it.
So go check it out on the Vimeo channel. Jasmine, it has been lovely to have you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. You're so much
It has been a
fun.
blast.
Of course. It was fun.
And guys out there listening, you can subscribe to this podcast, Feminine Mistake Podcast, on iTunes or on Stitcher or on SoundCloud. And if you could kindly leave us a review so that new listeners could find us, that'd be great.
5 stars only.
5 stars only. If you've got a nervous breakdown you'd like us to read on the show, you can send those to femininemistakepodcast@gmail.com.